This is my last video in my Summer of Gaming mini-series I've been making, just talking about different things that came out of the Summer Games showcases that I personally wanted to talk about. Like I say, this is the last one, so there'll be more topical videos coming, but there'll be a bit more of a shift back to review type content, demos, all that sort of stuff. This is not so much about a game like my previous two were, but more about what is being weaponized in the industry and what is the new form of monetization, the new form of predatory practice that seems to have weaseled its way into games very under the radar and very quietly, and it's very insidious. I, of course, am talking about paying to play early. Now, this isn't an early access suggestion, this isn't an early access program, this is you paying an excess of $80, pounds, even more than that in some cases, just to play the game 2-3 days early. And it's very, very sneaky the way that they implemented it. But it was Silent Hill F that got me onto it. So watching all the showcases over that weekend, I noticed Silent Hill F had about 4 or 5 different elite versions or special editions or whatever you want to call them. And one of them was saying that it gave 3 days early access. I think it was 3 days. It could be 2 days. I'll put it up on screen. Not that it matters that much. So I've already fell into this trap before. I'm quite bad with FOMO. I like to be part of the conversation. I like to know what's going on. Especially with me having this YouTube channel, I like to be at the forefront of what's going on. I like to be able to talk about a game with other people. I like to be able to think about another game, make content around other games, especially new ones. And given the fact that my series specifically, do I have time for this? It needs to have a lot of time sunk into the game. Being able to access it early and the fact that I can't really get review codes, it's a bit of a godsend, but it's definitely not worth the money that they're asking for. It's a waste of money, essentially. You're paying for nothing. You're paying to access the game slightly earlier than everyone else, but they're the ones setting the date. So if it was ready for 2 days early, why not just release it to everyone 2 days early? And the answer is to monetize FOMO, which is the strangest thing ever to come out with, and I don't know who came up with it, but that person should be in some sort of jail. If I'm being completely honest, I think that it's the most insidious, gross thing ever to weaponize FOMO of all things, especially in today's day and age where FOMO genuinely is everywhere, in every industry. No one wants to be behind on the times now. So this can come in a couple of different formats. There are upgrades to Game Pass games where you can drop $30, £30, and access the game early that way, where you're looking at a game that's quote-unquote free, and you're thinking, well, I would pay £30 for that game, so I could pay £30 to access that game early, couldn't I? And I did that with both Avowed and Starfield, and I imagine people are already in the comments going, well, what did you expect? Because those two games were extremely disappointing for me personally, and across the board, I think people found them to be quite disappointing. But I paid all that money just to access the game early because I felt like I was missing out by not having it. And that's all we got. All I got was a couple extra days where I could play it. And I got so far in, and I was like, do you know what? This just was not worth the money at all. So I fully believe that in doing that, where they're sort of offering upgrades to Game Pass, it makes it even more tempting to do. And it's getting really difficult in some cases to avoid doing that. I know people that have already done it for things like Death Stranding, which by the time this video comes out, I think will be today. I think the game comes out when this video is going to come out. But I know people who have paid to play it early. And if it's a most anticipated game, I almost feel like it's justified. And I hate the fact that I feel that way. So how did we get here? It started off with special editions, didn't it? With the steelbooks, where you paid a little bit extra for a steelbook or whatever. It came with an art book. Then it went to digital art books and soundtracks and all that sort of stuff. Then they had ones that came with all the DLC. You had ones where it was like pay $100,000 to have a bunker built. I'm sure it was Dying Light. You could get a zombie-proof bunker built in your garden or something like that. But they got to the point where so much content was in them, people started arguing that they'd been carving things out and specifically holding it back to put in these special editions. And you could really tell for the most part that that's what they were doing, especially with stuff like season passes. A lot of the times that DLC's already made and they've just sort of put it on the disc. At the time anyway, that was the case. Nowadays, you can't really tell because it's all downloadable, so people don't really pay attention to that sort of thing. But publishers found a way to make more and more money off the back of all these things. Then they introduced the whole microtransactions thing and, made a boatload of money, or dirty money on that. But then they found that they weren't perpetuating their growth constantly. They couldn't keep growing their profits year on year, so the investors weren't happy with not receiving as much of an increase as last time. So if they had a 2% increase last year, they want a 3% increase this year, and they would not accept 2 again. They would not accept 1 again. Even though that is profit for them, pure money for them, they would not be happy unless it was higher. So they needed to find a way to monetize something else. And this is what they've picked on, is FOMO. So special editions nowadays, they're rubbish. They're a bit naff, let's be honest. If you look at a special edition now, you'll get a digital art book, maybe a soundtrack, a couple of skins. And if we look specifically at the Silent Hill F1 that kind of set this whole video in motion, they're giving you healing items, and I think it's not bullets because it's a melee-only game. But they give you like healing items, and that's it. And it's like, why are you giving me healing items, a costume, and an art book, and that's it, when I'm paying like nigh on $80 to $100? And what the actual answer is because you're paying all of that money to access the game a couple of days early. That's it. All they want is for you to access that game slightly earlier, and you're meant to want to pay for that. And people like me fall for it. I'm going to be honest. People like me fall for it. It's so gross. I saw a comment on Reddit. I know. But I saw a comment on Reddit of all things that I think put this perfectly. The way they market it is you're paying to play early. But what's actually happening is you're not paying to play late. Because at that point, the actual release date is 3 days earlier than what you said. The game is out. So why are we being monetized for that? Why are we being monetized for those extra few days? If the game's ready, just release it. Like I say, the extra bits that you get for a special edition now have gotten so much less worth the money, so little value to it. A couple of healing items and a couple of costumes is nothing. It's not like actually having some sort of replica statue alongside it. It's not like having some sort of, like huge model, or even a steelbook seems more worth it these days, and we don't even get anything close to that for what we're actually paying. We're just paying for those early days. And in some cases, you actually act as the beta testers for it as well. Because if you think about people who paid early to play Doom the Dark Ages, as the most recent example, people who played Doom the Dark Ages on PC, early access, I'm calling it early access, paid to play it early, they actually had a worse experience than I did. So when they were first playing it, there was an issue with NVIDIA drivers that would cause it to keep crashing constantly. So someone I used to watch on YouTube, they had a massive problem where they would crash every 30 minutes or so and weren't actually able to play the game properly because they'd have to keep restarting the game over and over again. They found out that the main reason for it crashing was because NVIDIA drivers playing the game had a problem with also recording or streaming it on OBS. So that's why specifically YouTubers had a lot of issues, but people who weren't YouTubers also had the same issue with these NVIDIA drivers, that it would force you to install before it would let you play the game. So you were in a situation where if you paid to play early, you were playing a worse version of the game. And I think that goes for pretty much every game, even if you can't play early now. It benefits you to wait and play the game a year later once you've got all the patches, once you've got all the different adjustments to the game, because quite often there's stuff that comes out where the difficulty's imbalanced, or you die too fast, or you die too slow, or things like Call of Duty where the time to kill is significantly shorter and then they make it longer. The definitive best experience now genuinely is wait a year and then play it, as long as it's not a live service, because then it'll probably only last a couple of weeks anyway in this climate. So the thing that you want to really avoid is paying to play early, because you potentially are getting a worse experience despite the fact that you're playing before everyone else, even though you're playing it just from the original release date that they have then changed. So it's kind of unfair to everyone else when you think about it. It also impacts the hype cycle. The hype cycle shifts massively. And in some cases it elongates it, but in some cases I find it destroys it completely. So when a game first comes out and everyone's talking about it, there's a lot of palpable tension, there's a lot of conversations going on, there's a lot of charged debate, whether it be good or not, whether it be beneficial or not, it's still taking place around the release date. But then you end up separating it out. So usually you'll have the embargo when all the reviews come out, then you'll have everyone playing it early on a certain date, then a couple of days later you'll have everyone else playing it, and then you'll get some extra reviews then. So you end up with like a 2-week cycle of hype around it, which can be good or bad, obviously, but it gets to a point where certain people can't talk to other people, and then there's spoilers out in the wild that shouldn't be. So the thing is with people who get review codes and embargoes, they'll actively avoid spoilers. They might even be told to actively avoid spoilers, but then the people with the early access who've paid to play it early, they'll just do a full gameplay, throw that up. You'll see YouTube shorts, TikToks, all sorts of things around it. Well, you'll see spoilers from the game that you're waiting to play, and because you didn't pay that extra $20, $30 to play it early, then you're at a disadvantage. You're going to get things spoiled just because you didn't pay to play. And I think that's so disgusting. And they knew that that's going to happen, and that's what they're kind of hoping on, because smaller YouTubers don't tend to respect spoilers in the same way, especially if they haven't been given a code. They're under no obligation to avoid spoilers, so they'll just put things out and they'll not care at all if something gets spoiled. They'll just be like, well, I'm just uploading this as the gameplay. But I can open YouTube on the, let's say the 3 days before Death Stranding 2 comes out, I can open YouTube and I'll see, here is the end of Death Stranding 2, just there. And they'll explain it like, character death. I don't know, let's say Norman Reedus dies. Normus Reedus death. Normus Reedus? Enormous Reedus! Norman Reedus death, and it'll just say it in the title, and then that's it. It's the same as when a show comes out. If a show comes out, if you don't watch it there and then, you can easily get spoilers for it within about 30 seconds of the show going live. So you got to be really careful around spoilers these days, and I do feel like Joe YouTube does not care whether they spoil a game or not. They really don't. Whereas the bigger YouTubers definitely do, but that could be due to NDAs and stuff like that. As I said before, smaller content creators like me, we are sort of more inclined to go for these sorts of things as well, because the closer to a release your review is, the more likely it is to be watched. So I've released a review to The Precinct not that long ago. It got no views compared to my usual reviews, and I believe fully that that's because, one, it's an indie game, but two, it's because of how late after the game came out that I released that review. Now, I was really confident in that review. I love the writing in that review. I love the game. I think the game's great. But I think as soon as you start getting away from the release date of the game, the further you go, the less interest people are going to have in a review to a certain point, unless there's a DLC release or an update or something that's going to bring people back. There'll be less people searching for that. And as a result, more people such as myself, smaller creators, are going to be looking to buy those sorts of games and pay for those upgrades to get the game early, just so that they can make content around it that hits in the algorithm. And it's also really exploitative of neurodivergent people as well. I just wanted to throw that one in there. So I think there's a lot of neurodivergent people in gaming in general. And there's a lot of people who will hyper obsess over things. They'll have die-hard natures around franchises. You've seen it. If you make a Dark Souls video, there'll be people in there telling you to the nth degree that you're wrong, and there'll be people arguing with them to the nth degree that you're right. And there's loads of different communities out there who are die-hard for their franchises. They live and die by the series, and they will pay. It's the same as with my argument with Nintendo and the cost of Mario Kart World and stuff like that. They will just pay. They will pay for it, and publishers know this. And they're taking advantage of it, and it's not nice, and it's kind of gross. I don't like it. I really think that they're being far too predatory on really vulnerable people, and yes, there comes a certain point where it's capitalism bad, but come on. We need to somehow go against this, but I personally don't know where I would even begin. I'll vote with my wallet. I'm not paying for another early access for anything. And that's just a quick and dirty video around the negative effects of FOMO and the fact that publishers now are kind of monetizing, weaponizing FOMO against the gamer community to try and get more money out of them, because microtransactions, special editions, season passes, all that stuff just isn't doing it anymore. I didn't want to make a negative video. Like I said in my Silk Song video, I don't like to make negative videos, but I couldn't let this one lie. When I saw the special edition of Silent Hill F, something just hit me, and it's like I've paid for those before, so I know what the impact or the potential positive impact of that is, but I don't like it. I don't like the way it is, and I think this is just going to become par for the course now. We're not going to get rid of it. It's like season passes, it's like microtransactions. People are just going to shoehorn this in on every game because it's a really easy and quick way to make an extra $20, $30 on every unit sale. It's basically free money because there will be people who pay for it. Even if you just put it out there as a quote unquote option, people are going to pay for it. There's going to be people like me, there's going to be neurodivergent people, small content creators, even the big content creators will pay for it to get it early because people will want to see the coverage. So no matter what, people are going to buy it and it's not going to go anywhere, I'm afraid, but I just had to say something. I struggle with this sort of thing, and it sounds stupid to people who don't have this thing in their brain. They don't get the FOMO. It probably sounds stupid, and you're just like, oh, well, just be strong. Don't buy the game. Vote with your wallet. It'll be fine. But some people just have that thing, that itch in their brain that tries to convince you to buy it. And it's so insidious. I've said it multiple times, and I've got the redhead guy behind me. It's that insidious. But it's a real psychological tactic. I don't know what else we can do with this, but I wanted to make a video just talking about how much it sucks. And hopefully you're on the same page as me and you think that it's gross. But hopefully we're on to more positive topics in the future. I would love to talk about something that I really enjoy. A bit like my Resident Evil 9 video. I love talking about Resident Evil. So hopefully we're back onto more positive things. Thank you very much for watching today. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think about FOMO. Any of your personal experiences if you want to share them. And we'll talk about them down in the comments. I'm Gracious Rhino. Please look after each other. And I'll catch you soon. Goodbye.